and the timing wouldn't work right. So we think it's the flu. Who knows what it was? But anyhow, they at first they didn't give him. Um, they gave him a Z pack the second time. So because the
Oh.
first time they thought it was RSV and a Z pack doesn't do any good. So second time they gave him a Z pack and it seemed to do better. So
And the kids are okay, right?
there. I guess Quincy is back to normal. Finley's still not feeling great. But I haven't actually talked to Amanda because three of her friends from the Peace Corps just came in for her Amanda's birthday's at the end of February and came in for a birthday surprise. So
What?
she's got a house full. So I'll catch up with her tomorrow. So
Goodbye.
we've
You're
got a big
taking the
crowd.
photo? Where are you going?
Ready?
We are ready. Okay, I am going to mute all. And yes, there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay. Prayers. We caught everybody up. Continued prayers for Carol as she heals at home. Like I said, send her a note probably at this point. She's resting and recovering but doing well. Talked to her yesterday afternoon. She appreciates all the prayers. And like I said, she wanted everybody to know that she got excellent care in two Corpus Christi hospitals. And she was very pleased with that. And lots of people recovering. Cheryl Thorpe had kidney stones, which we didn't know about, but that is gone, and she's also been sick with all this stuff in the air. So pray for continuous recovery for her, that Scott gets better. Also for Kathy Ritter that we prayed for. Kelly's on. Good morning, Kelly. Pray continuous prayers for her dealing with pain. Monica, and who's a friend of Jean's and Monica's father, and also continuous prayers for Cindy's mentees as they go through various stages of cancer treatment.
God, we acknowledge that we come before you as the creator of this universe, of everything. Your ways are not our ways. We look for guidance. We look for ways to be reconciled, to understand what you have for us, what you intend for us, the good that you have reserved for us. We acknowledge your greatness and we praise you for the things that you've done and the things you continue to do. We see a world around us that is confusing right now. It's broken. And we look for reminders that we're supposed to be a part of the wholeness. We're supposed to be a part of your plan to eventually set things right. In performing the jobs you have for us, the work you have for us, we see people that are in pain. We see people that are affected by the brokenness of this place. We ask for your hand on these ones that we bring to you, the ones that you clearly have brought into our lives for a reason. And you know we suffer when they suffer. It's part of being one body. And so as always, we ask for relief. We ask for comfort. But we also ask for purpose for each one of them. The reward in being able to see that we're a part of your plan. Be with us always, always as we study to find those things that will help us draw closer to you, will help us to find our purpose in your plan. Amen.
Amen. Okay, where we left off, we are in our 7th week of Isaiah, and last week we left off at the end of chapter 10, and we had seen that Isaiah was prophesizing about what was going to happen to Judah from Assyria, and that anyhow, both chapters 9 and 10 covered that. Go ahead.
Yeah, bottom line, and Gene, I replied to you just a little while ago, but bottom line, what's happened here is that God has used Assyria as his instrument of punishment, of judgment on Israel for leaving him, for the leaders who have enriched themselves and then oppressed their own people. But that's only going to last for a while. He's only going to let that oppression by the Assyrians go for a little while. And it says that at some point, they're going to be punished for their pride and arrogance, because they have told themselves that they were able to accomplish this victory over the Israelites by the strength of their own hand. And so they're going to wind up seeing God's wrath as well. And that's what this is about. The odd thing, and Mary, I shouldn't do this because you're going to mention it again later on another passage, but it is a judgment against the Assyrians, and then he tells them, and this is what came up in, I guess it's going to come up in, it comes up in 11. That's where we are. Let's just go. Rather than skip ahead. I always get in trouble for that.
Okay, so we're going to go back to, remember, no chapters or verses, and so we're going to go back to chapter 10, verse 33, and then read the first part of 11. Behold, the Lord God of hosts will lop off the branches with terrifying power. The tall trees will cut down, the lofty ones will be felled. He will clear the forest thickets with an axe, and Lebanon will fall before the mighty one.
So he describes this is worth noting, he's describing this destruction of Assyria, and he Lebanon, that area up there is worldwide known for the cedars that they grow. That cedar wood is expensive. When David wants to build the temple and is told that he can't, he collects all the materials for his son Solomon, and one of the things he does is bring in a lot of cedar wood for the temple. It's very expensive. It makes Lebanon famous worldwide. And it describes this destruction as the felling of trees, of cutting down mighty trees. Well, that's what that area is known for. And one of the things that's, when you cut down cedars, the stumps just sit and rot. They don't, no new little shoots come up from out of the stump. That forest is dead. You have to pull the roots, plant a new one. Dead is dead. That's as dead as can be. So when Assyria is cut down like this, they're gone for good.
And it was funny. We were reading some of the different sources that we go to when we study, and they were bringing this up, the difference between the cedar trees and what we're going to see in the next verses. And I didn't know that. Scott said he knew that, of course. But anyhow, so that should be something I won't ever forget, that when these verses 33 and 34, when they're talking about Assyria, he is saying once and for all, he is going to, once he's used these people to do what he needs to do, then he's going to go after Assyria, and they are going to be gone once and for all.
It is also probably worth noting Assyria is the big kid on the block in that part of the world. They're the 500-pound gorilla. They are the invincible power. And as happens often, God has other plans. At this point, Babylon's a place, but they're no big deal. Assyria is the big mighty one, and God ends them just like that, just almost overnight.
So he says at the end of chapter 10, he's going to cut down the cedars of Lebanon. He's going to cut down Assyria. Then going into chapter 11, it says, then a shoot will spring up from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and strength, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees, and he will not decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he will judge the poor, and with equity he will decide for the lowly of the earth. He will strike the earth with a rod of his mouth, and he will slay the wicked with the breath of his lips. Righteousness will be the belt around his hips, and faithfulness the sash around his waist.
It seems pretty clear to us, or it should, that this is prophecy about the Messiah. That should tell you that time in this prophecy, as we keep saying, is sort of immaterial. It's hard to understand unless you get the fact that this is totally without regard to time.
So Isaiah just went from near-term prophecy of what's going to happen to Assyria that exists in Isaiah's time to
The Messiah.
the Messiah.
What you should notice about this, remember, he just got through talking about Assyria being struck down, like trees being felled, like cedar trees. They're completely dead as a nation. And the very next thing he does is describe Israel as more like an oak tree. If you cut an oak tree down, the roots remain, and you'll get these little shoots that can come up and start growing a new tree. And so Syria is going to be chopped down like cedars, and then Assyria. And then it says, then a shoot will spring up from the stump of Jesse. And we know that, Jesse was the father of King David. And out of the house of David comes Jesus, comes the Messiah. It's easy to see what's being described here. It says that a shoot will spring up from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots will bear fruit. So you see the comparison between Assyria that looks dead and is dead, and Israel that has gone through this horrible destruction, God's judgment, and yet he doesn't cut them off completely. From out of the stump, from out of the roots, will come one who will spring forth. And look at the description. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. The Spirit of wisdom and understanding. The Spirit of counsel and strength. There are people who will debate whether or not this is a messianic prophecy. I don't see how it could be anything else, but I guess people see what they want to. He will delight in the fear of the Lord. This is Jesus. But I love the part in the rest of 3 where he says, he'll not judge by what his eyes see, and he'll not decide by what his ears hear. We read that during Christmas when we talked about prophecies of Jesus. This idea of not judging by what his eyes see or deciding by what his ears hear. He sees the heart. He understands in a way that normal humans obviously do not. It's a beautiful thing. With righteousness he will judge the poor, and with equity he will decide for the lowly of the earth. Now, think about that. It sounds really good, but you couldn't get elected mayor in Rockport by saying, I'm going to take care of the poor for real. When we lived there and I was stupid enough to get involved in politics, they kept making all of these decisions that benefited a small group of people, and 60% of the kids are on free or reduced lunch. And it just kept increasing the burden on them. And I complained about it. And you know what? It's not a popular thing to complain about. You can't get elected by actually deciding to judge the poor with righteousness and with equity, decide for the lowly on the earth. And yet that's what Jesus does. He comes for the ones that have been in bondage, the ones that have been oppressed. He judges with righteousness and equity. This is a messianic prophecy. It is the contrast to them being just destroyed by the Assyrians. And then here is the assurance, but I'm not going to cut you off completely. There's a plan to restore you and to restore humanity. It's a beautiful thing. Righteousness will be the belt around his hips, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. So we've got that description of things are going to look really bad, but it's not really over. And then we've had a near-term prophecy, a fairly long-term prophecy 700 years later, and right behind that comes one of the end times. Listen to what it says next.
Verse 6 in chapter 11. The wolf will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf and the young lion and fatling will be together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will graze with the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play by the cobra's den, and the toddler will reach into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be full of knowledge of the Lord, as the sea is full of water.
Now, this describes the time, and I'm just going to be bold enough to tell you, this is after Jesus comes back. After he said the second time, after he sets things right. And what's being described here, these animals living, the fox, not the fox, the wolf will live with the lamb. You remember that old thing when we were kids, the puzzle about you've got a fox, a chicken, and a bag of grain, and you got to get them across the river, and if you can't carry all three, well, if you leave the fox with the chicken, you're going to come back, and there's only going to be a fox, right? They're just natural prey. And what this is describing are these animals that if you leave them alone with each other, one's going to eat the other, right? You can't have them just peacefully cohabitating. And he's describing this time where one is going to come, where the leopard will lie down with the goat. Incidentally, the lion will lie down with the lamb. You know that saying that we all know. It's not in the Bible anywhere.
It's a wolf.
The wolf will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the goat. It's not important. But what he's describing is a time that is upside down. Things are a changed reality. Animals that normally one eats the other, one runs from the other, that'll be changed. Well, this is not about animals. Mary read someone yesterday who literally said that there's going to come a time when this literal thing, I don't know if it will or won't, but that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about people. It's talking about the way that people treat each other, the dangers of just living together with other humans.
And this didn't happen during Jesus' first coming.
No, he didn't come and make things like that during his first time here. He didn't. He gave us the pattern, the explanation of the way to live, and he gave us the charge of living this way. But we can't live in this world and not expect to get eaten by somebody that, figuratively, over their desire for power. So this hasn't happened, and it will never happen until he comes back. But I told you I'm going to boldly say this is not about animals, and it is about a changed reality of this world. It's a thing that only happens when he comes the second time. We keep reading, you're going to see that's not my speculation. It's not our interpretation. We're going to get a description of this applying to humans, and you'll see what this for sure is about.
And you wanted to highlight, they will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain.
That's true. That's another good point. They'll neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain. Well, at that time, it's all going to be his holy mountain. This is not just saying people, because his holy mountain, you could say, well, that's Jerusalem. This is not just going to be good times for people who have a Jerusalem zip code. It's about the idea that in that time, in all the world, everything that he now reigns over, no one will harm or destroy. This nature that we have to harm and destroy, to seek power, to seek wealth, will be changed. The remnant that's left will be different. It'll be a different world. Read the next part, though.
Well,
On
Scott,
Yeah.
before we go, that at 9, the language for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord. Not faith, knowledge. Is that intellectual knowledge? I know, and now I'm going to follow, or I believe in you and I'm going to follow?
It is that word. It's a good question. It is. I think you get it better as understanding of the Lord. It's sort of like the difference between hearing and understanding. Actually getting it. You can hear words, you can hear sounds, and not get it. In that time, it says that the earth will be full of the understanding of the Lord. Maybe for the first time ever, we'll get it because things will be changed. But it's a good question. Yeah, that's what it means.
Verse 10 of chapter 11. On that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nation will seek him, and his place of rest will be glorious. On that day, the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover the remnant of his people from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will collect the scattered of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Then the jealousy of Ephraim will depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will no longer envy Judah, nor will Judah harass Ephraim.
So on that day, and that's this second coming, the root of Jesse, and we know that is a risen Christ, will stand as a banner for the peoples. And that word peoples here is everybody. It's all of humanity. But then it says the nations will seek him. Well, the nations are the Gentiles. That word is goyim. And so it's going to be this final uniting where we're all one, where Jews and Gentiles are no different. He's going to raise a banner for the peoples to rally to come to him. The Gentiles will seek him, and his place of rest will be glorious, and that's the New Jerusalem. And on that day, the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover the remnant of his people, and it names all these places. The Jews are spread all over the world. The word is diaspora, and it means they are just, it's like an explosion. They're everywhere. And on that day, there will be a remnant that'll be called back. Finally, Jerusalem will be the New Jerusalem will be home. He'll extend his hand a second time. This is the second coming. You can't miss the references if you look for them. It's pretty clear what's going on. He'll extend his hand a second time. What was the first time? Well, it's the first time he came and he called out and he offered this to people. Some take him up on it, some don't. But the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover the remnant. He'll raise a banner for the nations, for the Gentiles, and gather the exiles of Israel. And I will look, if you will, if at 13, then the jealousy of Ephraim. Now, Ephraim is the northern kingdom. Remember, the Jews couldn't get along with each other as one nation. They split into two, and Ephraim is jealous of Judah, and Judah hates Ephraim, and they fought, they have harmed each other, and they continue this ongoing enmity. Then, finally, at that time, The jealousy of Ephraim will depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will no longer envy Judah, nor will Judah harass Ephraim. So, this is the same thing that's being talked about with the wolf shall lie down with the lamb. It's a changed nature. The Jews have never had a changed nature. They have fought with each other and everyone, just like everyone else has. But he's describing in this time, a change is going to occur. And people are no longer going to be at each other's throats. They're not going to be jealous of each other. They're actually going to live together just like a wolf and a lamb, or just like a leopard living together with a goat. Changed nature, a changed world. So this really incredible packed together 3 sections. A near-term prophecy of Assyria being destroyed, a longer-term prophecy that comes up 700 years later, and a very long-term prophecy that describes finally the second coming of Jesus and the establishment of the New Jerusalem. This is shockingly descriptive prophecy that gives this. What's important about it being all 3 things is it describes one long story, one long plan, and not little vignettes of, this thing mysteriously happens. It is one plan that has always been in place for humanity that God has intended for us. It's a beautiful thing.
This last part of chapter 11, verses 14 through 16, you can see similar descriptions in Revelations about the last battle. We call it Armageddon.
For those of you who don't know, by the way, there's a place in Israel called Megiddo. It's sort of in this central valley location, and it's very strategically important because of where it sits. And the Megiddo, if you look out across the plain, there are these mountains. Syria, they say that if you wanted to invade, if they wanted a final invasion of Israel, they would sweep out around the mountains, or out around the Galilee, down the mountains into the plain of Megiddo. The word Armageddon, when you hear about the final battle, we always hear Armageddon, that is Har Megiddo, the hills of Megiddo. It's going to be this final battle fought at the hills of Megiddo. And that's what we read about in Revelation, and that's what's being described very explicitly all the way back in Isaiah.
They will swoop down on the slopes of the Philistines to the west. Together they will plunder the sons of the east. They will lay their hands on Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites will be subject to them. The Lord will devote to destruction the gulf of the Sea of Egypt. With his scorching wind, he will sweep his hand over the Euphrates. He will split it into 7 streams for men to cross with dry sandals. There will be a highway for the remnant of his people who remain from Assyria, as there was for Israel when they came up from the land of Egypt.
Not going to make too much out of it. This is end time prophecy. It is a description of that final period of battle, where it talks about the world being changed, of the destruction of the sea. I think this is the Gulf of the Sea of Egypt. Revelation has a description of something that sounds like a comet, but we don't know. But actually, part of an ocean is destroyed. And the big thing you need to get from this is that he'll split into 7 streams for men to cross the dry sandals. He's going to make a way for the remnant of the Jews to in the middle of all of this destruction, to make their way back to Jerusalem. And this is Revelation. This is one prophecy. So
Then chapter...
Let me ask Scott, please. I'm sorry. Let me digress for 1 minute to 10. And his teacher, Paul, rather, when he's reading this thing by his teachers, before he gets to see the light directly from God, what would he have read in these about the peoples and the nations, would he have read Gentile?
Absolutely, Gene. That word goyim only has one meaning.
Okay.
In a really devout Jewish home right now, if one of their children begins to date, they go, "Oh no, you're not dating a goy. I mean, it's a Gentile." So that's what Paul would have seen, because there is no other interpretation. Goyim is Gentile, and it would have been a little bit shocking for them. It always is. We see through the Old Testament references to the Gentiles all the time, but they took the position God loves them as Jews, he doesn't love the Gentiles, and they just sort of tended to throw away these statements about the nations unless they were saying something bad about the Gentiles, and those they like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chapter 12 in Isaiah, if we could have 151st Psalm, it would be, no, 100,
I think they're 150. I don't know.
150 Psalms. If there could be 151 Psalms, this chapter 12 would be a Psalm.
This is a psalm in any meaningful sense. This is a psalm.
It's only 6 verses long, and I'm going to read it, but I want you to look. I'm going to state one of them. In verse 1, he says, "Your anger," talking about God's anger, "has turned away, and you have comforted me." If you remember last week when we were reading chapters 9 and 10, 4 times Isaiah heard from God, or Isaiah stated that God's anger had not turned away. He was still angry with the people of Assyria, or with Judah. With Judah, and therefore he was going to bring destruction onto Judah. But here at the end times, his anger has turned away. So there's a reversal of that anger. We heard that statement, his anger has not turned away 4 times.
You remember us reading that, but his anger is still not turned away. I mean, it's still going to get worse and worse. All of a sudden now, we hear about this, in this end time, his anger is finally turned away. It's a beautiful, again, it's beautiful because it brings it full circle.
Chapter 12. In that day you will say, "O Lord, I will praise you. Although you were angry with me, your anger has turned away, and you have comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For the Lord God is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the springs of salvation, and on that day you will say, 'Give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make his work known among the peoples, declare that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known in all the earth. Cry out and sing, O citizen of Zion, for great among you is the Holy One of Israel.'"
That sounds like it could have been written by David. It's absolutely reminiscent, and this is it's inspired. God laid it on his heart, and it comes out sounding just like one of the Psalms. In that day, to begin with, this is a continuation. There are no chapters and verses. In that final New Jerusalem, second coming time, in that day, you will say, well, who is the you that will say this? None of the people alive at that time. And it's a thing that is hard for us to understand. The Jews see themselves as one people, even though they're spread all over the world. But I say they do. Obviously, not anything is universal. But as a people, they see themselves as one people.
Especially the religious Jews.
The religious Jews, but also through time. They see themselves as being one with all the ones who came before them. And so the Jews, Israel, the people who are left, the remnant, in that time, they will say, "O Lord, I will praise you. Although you are angry with me, your anger has turned away." And this is the completion of his anger is still not turned away. His anger is still not turned away. In that time, it's going to be over with, and you'll be free to give praise. I do want to mention one thing. Verse 2, surely God is my salvation. That word salvation is Yeshua. It's Jesus. There's a reason why the angel told Mary, you will name him Yeshua.
Yeah.
It means salvation. And so, we are reminded constantly of this. And so, surely God is my Yeshua, my salvation, and I will trust and not be afraid. For the Lord God is strength and song, and he also has become my Yeshua. Yeshua T, that means for, but he's become my salvation. And we use, it invokes the name. That's supposed to be a constant reminder to us. Verse 3, with joy you will draw water from the springs of salvation. Yeshua, when that time finally comes, with joy you'll draw water, the living water, from Yeshua, from the Messiah, from Jesus himself. And on that day you'll say, give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name. Finally, once and for all, people will say these words full-heartedly. And so make his works known among all the peoples, declare his name is exalted, sing to the Lord. So for great among you is the Holy One of Israel. This triumphant description of the final changed nature of this place. When Jesus comes back, sets things right, people's hearts are changed, the world is changed. This is a description of that time, unmistakably.
Scott, talk about the reference in the New Testament when Jesus meets the woman at the well, and it was in Samaria, right?
Yeah, about you with joy you will draw water from the springs of salvation. He meets that woman at the well and asks her to draw him some water, and that's kind of scandalous for him to be asking one of these Gentile women this. And he says, if you asked, I would give you living water. And she says, I don't know what that is, but give me some of that. I mean, that sounds pretty good, and I don't even have to draw it. Yeah, give me some of that. But we see these references, this terminology, and these images over and over and over again. And with joy, you will draw water from the springs of Yeshua, from the springs, the living water that is Jesus himself. Virginia pointed out to me a few weeks ago that, maybe it's wise to mention that everything points to Jesus in this book. Well, it does. And in these prophecies, it couldn't be any more clear. And the illusions, the images that we get of drawing this living water, when this time finally comes about, it'll look more like a reality, and you'll kind of finally understand some of the images. Anything else?
Not on this. Okay, so we're now going to go to chapter.
I think that you keep telling us it's one book, it's one plan, and these writings support one another. It keeps building and building, clue after clue after clue. And I think that's impressive over 1,500 years that you can have that one book, one thought, one plan written by human beings.
Gene, the longer I do this and the more areas of it we delve into, the more I keep asking, why did no one ever tell me this? Why did nobody ever point this out? Because it is one long story of God's plan. And as Virginia points out, it all points to Jesus. It points to the Messiah. That was always the plan. And it all ties together. And every section of the Bible that I dive into, I find the same thing. It's always that even in surprising places where you think, oh, that couldn't possibly. There it is, spelled out nice and plain. And you see these things that you see the same references in the New Testament. Yeah, it is. It is one story.
And this next section we're going to start is chapter 13, and actually chapter 13 to chapter 23 is the next section. And during those sections, Isaiah is going to prophesy about 9 surrounding nations or areas and that surround Israel and what is going to happen to them. Okay, and it's during different time periods. And the first one we're going to look at is chapters 13 and 14, and it is going to be about Babylon. Now, one of the things Scott and I talked a lot about this week was about how you study the Bible. And, you know, we often talk about, and we understand why ministers and priests, etc., do this from a sermon standpoint. They, you know, pick a passage, and some of our issues with that is it's out of context. And then Scott and I went down a road of doing, you know, verse by verse, which we do a lot of. And it's not that we don't agree with verse by verse study. But I think what the biggest picture, and you'll see it here in 13 and 14, is the importance of not only looking at it with a microscope, but also looking at it with binoculars. I mean, going in to the detail, but then also going back. And if you don't, you miss so much. Do you want to add something to that?
No, I think we can demonstrate it better by look at the first sentence. What you called out about that this week is important.
This is the burden against Babylon that Isaiah, son of Amos, received.
Just that line. You want
Sure.
the burden. This is a judgment, but that word it means a little more than that, because it's said burden because it's a judgment because of something they deserve. It is not just God up there saying, I'm going to punish you people because I don't like you. You don't follow me. A burden is something that, a debt that you've incurred that has to be paid one way or another. And so you can read it as judgment, but it's a judgment for a debt incurred or for a trespass. And Babylon, you want to say it?
Sure, yeah.
You're the one
So now I want you to go back to when Isaiah first heard this word from the Lord and was giving this prophecy. Remember, it was 700 years before Jesus came, 700 BC. Okay? This is a prophecy that happens in 539 BC, actually. But let's just say, for the sake of it, 600 BC. So this prophecy happens 100 years in the future. When Isaiah is telling the people of his time about it, it makes no sense to him. Babylon exists, but Babylon's a nobody. I mean, Babylon is not this great nation that we know that Babylon became. And yet, so Scott had wrote several weeks ago about the purpose of prophecy. And I mean, God is amazing, and this book is amazing, you guys. The purpose of prophecy, from us in 2026, we get to see that, oh my gosh, this all came to be. I mean, I think it is amazing, but you miss it if you don't know, when you start chapter 13, that when Isaiah was saying this, the people of Judah would be going, what? Babylon's a nobody. What do you mean Babylon?
Babylon's a town. Babylon's a city. So what? Let me see if I can, because I hope we can give you some of the sense of wonder at this prophecy. Just a little while ago, he talked about how Assyria was going to be punished for what they do to Israel, right? At the time Isaiah wrote that, Assyria hadn't done anything. Assyria hadn't invaded yet, and he's already describing a punishment that's going to come to them for daring to come against Israel and act like God wasn't involved. So is this prophecy? This is weird prophecy. It's amazing because it's not only describing there to be an invasion, but it's describing they're going to be punished for doing something they haven't done yet, and it comes to pass. Now, in this case, this is a burden against Babylon. Babylon's not going to come for over 100 years. 100 years. And here is a burden. It's a judgment of debt that has to be paid for something that they won't do for another 100+ years. And it sits there and waits for the unfolding of time for all of these events to come to pass. And then you're going to see the burden, the judgment go against them. And people who are around are going to be able to go, oh my gosh, God told us this was going to happen. And it happened. That's the purpose, or a big part of the purpose of this prophecy, is for us to recognize that His Word is good, that these things take place over long periods of time, but don't lose hope, don't lose sight of the fact that it's a long time to us, it's not a long time to God.
This is the burden against Babylon that Isaiah son of Amos received. Raise a banner on a barren hilltop. Call out loud to them. Wave your hand, that they may enter the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have summoned my warriors to execute my wrath and to exult in my triumph. Listen, a tumult on the mountains like that of a great multitude. Listen, an uproar among the kingdoms like nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts is mobilizing an army for war. They are coming from faraway lands, from the ends of the heavens, the Lord and the weapons of his wrath to destroy the whole country. Wail, for the day of the Lord is near. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands will fall limp, and every man's heart will melt. Terror, pain, and anguish will seize them. They will writhe like a woman in labor. They will look at one another, their faces flushed with fear. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, cruel with fury and burning anger, to make the earth a desolation and to destroy the sinners within it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The rising sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will end the haughtiness of the arrogant, and lay low the pride of the ruthless. I will make man scarcer than pure gold, and mankind rarer than the gold of Ophir.
Ophir. Can we pause there?
Mm-hmm.
If any of you are still awake, we talked this week
awake.
about giving you guys some choice. Some of this is going to begin to seem very repetitive, and it's not our goal to want to bore you with it. It's going to, it may even get a little thick. There's a purpose in it, and if you're starting to feel like, I get the point. It's prophecy, and we can sort of pass over some of this, but at the same time, when you listen to what we just read, what Mary just read, where it talks about the rising sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, I'll make man scarcer than pure gold and mankind rarer than the gold of Ophir. That doesn't sound like, even when Babylon comes and hauls people away, they leave a bunch of people. The sun doesn't dim. This is hard to understand. In Revelation, see, Babylon gets destroyed. We'll give you the spoiler. Babylon gets destroyed after a time. But in Revelation, there's a big reference to Babylon. How is that possible? Do they just spring back into, become a big nation again? In Revelation, Babylon represents sort of the ultimate sinfulness. It represents Antichrist, if you will. I mean, you know about the Antichrist. Babylon is the representation of that. And do you have that reference from Revelation?
Revelations 18, yeah.
Revelation 18. If you, with your permission, I want to skip across and read you something from Revelation, because maybe it makes Isaiah, this portion of it, make a little more sense. But Revelation 18. This is John's revelation of the end time. After this, I saw another angel descending from heaven with great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his glory. And he cried out in a mighty voice, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." Now, Babylon the Great falls thousands of years earlier. How is this possible? What's going on here? Fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a lair for demons and a haunt for every unclean spirit. All the nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her immorality. The kings of the earth were immoral with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown wealthy from the extravagance of her luxury. This is a description of something in the end time. This ultimate decadence, this ultimate apostasy, and how all the nations are drunk with her wine and her immorality. And I heard another voice. I'm just going to read a little bit more because I don't want to read the whole thing. "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins or contract any of her plagues, for her sins are piled up to heaven." You see this description of Babylon as being this ultimately immoral, sexually decadent, this explosion of wealth and just kind of wallowing in the money. If you read this on your own, go read Revelation 18. It's a description of the great Babylon. And I'll go ahead, because I told Mary I probably wasn't going to say this. But in Revelation, in the final end times, it describes Babylon, even though the Babylon that Isaiah is talking about is destroyed and defeated. I think the new Babylon is the United States. And if you read Revelation 18 and you look at the sexual perversion, the fact that all the nations, they send ships over and they haul out wealth, and they get wealth off of Babylon. And when she finally falls, it causes a destruction all over the world economically. Yeah, that's what would happen if we finally fall. I personally, and this is strictly me, everybody has this, but I think Revelation 18 describes Babylon, and if you look real close, it sounds surprising like America today. So make
But
of
you'll
that.
also say that we're not supposed to spend a lot of time.
It also says don't spend a lot of time speculating on end time stuff, and I try not to. The point of this, to get back to Isaiah, is that he's talking about the destruction of Babylon, but there also appears to be something more. This is what sometimes they call a dual reference, because it's describing things with the fall of Babylon that don't seem to have to do with that city in Mesopotamia, right? So this is end times and near terms, and they're sort of hard to pull apart. If this gets too thick, send us email this week and we'll lighten it up.
I'm going to read, let me see, where did we stop there? Because there's we stopped at 12. I'm going to read to the end, and there's one verse that we want to talk
Can
about.
you go back up just a little bit before you get to... If you look at verse 11, "I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their iniquity." That sounds more like Revelation than it sounds like what happens at the fall of Babylon. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so verse 13. "Therefore I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken from its place at the wrath of the Lord of hosts on the day of his burning anger. Like a hunted gazelle, like a sheep without a shepherd, each will return to his own people, each will flee to his native land. Whoever is caught will be stabbed, and whoever is captured will die by the sword. The infants will be dashed to pieces before their eyes, their houses will be looted, and their wives will be ravished. Behold, I will stir up against them the Medes, who have no regard for silver and no desire for gold. Their bows will dash young men to pieces, and they will have no mercy on the fruit of the womb. They will not look with pity on the children. And Babylon, the jewel of the kingdoms, the glory of the pride of the Chaldeans, will be overthrown by God like Sodom and Gomorrah. She will never be inhabited or settled from generation to generation. No nomad will pitch his tent there. No shepherd will rest his flock there. But the desert creatures will lie down there, and howling creatures will fill their houses. Ostriches will dwell there, and wild goats will leap about. Hyenas will howl in her fortresses, and jackals in her luxurious palaces. Babylon's time is at hand, and her days will not be prolonged.
The end of that, Babylon's time is at hand. Babylon doesn't sweep in here for over 100 years. Prophecy is such a strange thing. But one thing I kind of want to point to here, it's those of you who are around when we did the book of Daniel, and that prophecy of the statue, and that prophesies the different kingdoms that will come. First will be Babylon, then right behind that, the bronze, body will be the Medes and the Persians. Babylon rules supreme for a while, and then the Medes and Persians come. That's in the book of Daniel. That's part of the prophecy. And look at verse 17.
Behold, I will stir up against them the Medes, who have no regard for silver and no desire for gold.
Same prophecy. Same thing that we get from Daniel.
So,
Exactly.
so remember I said that the Babylonian hasn't become a great nation yet. It will become a great nation from 605 to 562 is when Nebuchadnezzar rules. And the Medes will destroy Babylon in 539 BC. So here is Isaiah not only talking about a nation that hasn't risen, it talks about when that nation will fall and who will defeat it will be the Medes.
The Medes. And if it's odd, if people would read this and think, Babylon, why is he even talking about Babylon? They're nobody. The Assyrians are the big kids on the block. And then he says Babylon's going to come and they're going to get knocked down by the Medes and the Persians. And people would have said, the Medes? Who the heck are the Medes? We don't even know who they are. And here he is prophesying that's who's going to knock down Babylon. And that's exactly what happens. And that, by the way, is history. You can read, you don't have to go to Bible history. You can just read world history. And that's exactly what happens to Babylon is the Medes and Persians defeat them. There it is.
But and also, like Scott said, this idea of dual prophecy is what it's called, and Scott doesn't like some of these theological terms, but this one's important to know, and is fact that the concept of Babylon and the next Babylon, Babylon becomes a representation in Revelation of humankind totally going against God's will.
Yeah, and this is where, prophecy can get a little bit much, and I understand not everybody wants to wade through it. But Babylon represents sort of the ultimate turning against God, the ultimate sexual immorality, the ultimate anti-God, the place, but it's also this sort of symbol of what exists at the end when Revelation comes that we know as Antichrist. There's so much packed into here. We don't want to do like a college course on it, but the prophecy is pretty shocking. The message to us, though, is you can go to a history book. You don't have to believe Bible scholars. You can go to your favorite history book and realize that this was written. People can debate exactly when it was written, but we know it was written before the Medes and Persians, and yet there's a prophecy of them. By seeing this, we can at least have some extra assurance that God's word is good and that his plan is going to come to fruition exactly how he says. Anything else?
Nope.
God, it's sometimes hard for us to know what to make of these things. You give so much, and we're only capable of understanding a little. We see enough, though, to recognize that you give us all the reassurance we need. My prayer is that would begin to carry over into our daily lives as well. When we face struggles, when we see challenges, we wonder, how will we ever get through this? That we'll be reminded that you've made a way, that there's a plan that's much greater than us, but also doesn't leave us out, doesn't overlook us. You intend good for us, and you've made a way for us to find our way to you. Remind us this week. I personally am thankful for these people in this group, people that have visited Carol, that have contacted, people that have contacted others to check in, because that's who we are as a body. Help us to be that. Be your hands and your voices in this broken world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, you guys. Have a good day.
You too.
This is the best looking group I know. Thank you.
Enjoy your day, guys. Talk to you later.
Have a
Bye,
great
Mary.
week, everybody.